Last Friday night, I was out with some friends, trying to unwind over a game of pool at a quiet bar on the other side of town. It was a regular night, nothing special, until my phone buzzed with a text from my wife, Emma. She said she'd be working late again, which wasn't unusual. Her job in marketing kept her constantly under pressure. Deadlines, meetings, and late nights had become a familiar pattern, so I just replied, "No problem, I'll grab some food on my way home." A bit later, as I returned to the table, my buddy Jake pulled me aside with a look that instantly set me on edge. Jake wasn't usually one to look serious, so when he hesitated, I felt a pit forming in my stomach. "I saw Emma today," he finally said, his tone careful. "She was at that new Italian restaurant, but she wasn't alone." At first, I laughed it off, telling him Emma had a lot of friends and could easily have been at a work lunch. But Jake didn't laugh. He kept his gaze steady, and his expression grew even more serious. "It didn't look like a work thing, man. She was with some guy, and they looked close." His words hit me hard, and I felt a chill creep up my spine. The worry Jake had stirred in me wouldn't let go. I tried to shake it off, but the seed of doubt had already taken root. For the rest of the night, I couldn't concentrate. My mind was fixed on Jake's words, replaying his hesitation and that look on his face. He didn't want to tell me, I could see that, and his unease made the whole thing seem all the more real. By the time I got home, past midnight, my mind was tangled with questions and insecurities I'd never allowed myself to feel before. When I walked into our apartment, it was dark and quiet, like a calm before a storm. As I set my keys down, something on the counter caught my eye: Emma's laptop, still open with an email displayed. Normally, I wouldn't pry, but there was something that drew my eyes to the screen. In the subject line was a name I'd never seen before, Mark. And suddenly, pieces started falling into place. I barely realized what I was doing as I unlocked her laptop and started scrolling through the emails. Each message felt like a knife twisting deeper, as I saw the kind of conversations Emma and this Mark were having. There was no talk of marketing campaigns or client proposals. These weren't professional messages, they were personal, full of hidden meanings and inside jokes. I felt a wave of nausea and betrayal rise up, every line a confirmation of my worst fears. And just then, I heard the sound of a key in the door. Emma walked in, looking far too put together for someone who'd supposedly been working late. Her lipstick was still flawless, and her eyes widened when she saw me standing there with her laptop open. Her face went pale as she registered the situation, and for the first time since we met, she was speechless. In that moment, I held her gaze, holding up her laptop. "Care to explain this?" My voice was steady, though I felt anything but calm inside. Emma just stood there, her eyes darting between me and the laptop, and I wondered if she'd finally tell me the truth. Instead, she let out a cold, mocking laugh. "Are you really digging through my work emails now, Alex?" She tried to brush it off, but I didn't flinch. I knew then that nothing she could say would make this right. As I stood there, watching her dodge and deflect, I could feel my anger growing. She tried to act like I was the one crossing a line, but I'd seen enough in those emails to know the truth. I didn't back down. "Emma," I said, my voice steady, "I know you weren't meeting clients. Late night strategy session?" I let the words hang there, daring her to drop the act. Emma sighed, crossing her arms in that exasperated way, as if I were being unreasonable. "Look, maybe I did meet up with someone from work," she finally said, her tone dismissive. "But can you blame me? You're never around, Alex. All you do is work, and when you come home, it's like I don't even exist." Her words hit me hard, but not for the reason she thought. Instead of guilt, I felt a surge of disbelief. She was trying to shift the blame, to make her betrayal somehow my fault. "So, that's it?" I asked, my voice dangerously low. "I didn't give you enough attention, so you went looking for it with someone else?" Her face hardened, and I saw a flash of defiance in her eyes. Maybe if you'd been paying attention, you'd understand, she said coolly, her gaze unwavering. Mark listens to me, Alex. He actually cares. He notices me in ways you haven't in years. Her tone was almost smug, like she felt justified in what she'd done, as if she were daring me to react. My jaw clenched as I fought to keep my voice steady. And that's supposed to make this okay? I shot back. You think you're some victim here, justifying sneaking around with a man who's apparently been there for you, while I've been checked out? Her eyes narrowed, and she shrugged with an indifference that chilled me to my core. I'm just saying, you made it easy, she said, not even flinching. You're always around, sure, but never really present, are you? Just going through the motions isn't enough, Alex. Her words sliced through me, each one carefully designed to strip away any sense of security I'd had in our relationship. Instead of feeling guilt or remorse, she stood there, cold and distant, like she couldn't care less that she was tearing our life apart. I took a deep breath, every nerve on edge, and held up her laptop, the damning evidence right there on the screen. So, what's this, then? I asked, my voice shaking with a mix of anger and hurt. Just friendly messages with a coworker who listens. For a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of guilt, a momentary hesitation. But then, something in her eyes changed, and she looked at me with a smirk, as if she'd finally decided to drop the pretense. Fine, Alex. Yes, she admitted, her voice laced with defiance. Mark and I are more than just friends. It felt like a punch to the gut. She didn't try to deny it, didn't make excuses. She just threw it out there, unapologetically, shattering whatever was left of my hope that maybe this was all just a misunderstanding. I took a step back, gripping the edge of the counter as her words sank in. This wasn't some fleeting mistake or a lapse in judgment. She'd made her choice, and that choice didn't include me. I stood there, numb and broken, as she looked back at me, not with regret or shame, but with a steely calm that told me everything I needed to know. I barely recognized my own voice as I asked, how long? It came out as a whisper, barely audible over the pounding in my ears. Emma's expression didn't soften, she didn't show an ounce of hesitation. 6 months, she replied, her tone as flat as if she were discussing the weather. 6 months. Half a year of secrets, deceit, and double lives. My mind raced, replaying every quiet evening, every smile, every "I love you" that now felt like a lie. Each memory twisted with bitterness, tainted by the knowledge that all that time, she had been with him. Birthdays, anniversaries, random nights we spent together, every one of them tainted. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to stay calm. So, all those late nights at the office, all the work dinners, that was him? Emma rolled her eyes, crossing her arms as though she were annoyed that I kept pressing. Yes, Alex, she said, her voice carrying an edge of impatience. But you wouldn't have even known if you hadn't been snooping around. It didn't affect us, not really. I almost laughed at the absurdity of her logic. She actually seemed to believe that her secrecy meant everything was somehow fine, as if the lies she told me were acts of mercy. My voice cracked as I spoke, trying to grasp her twisted perspective. So, what? I was supposed to just live in the dark, blissfully ignorant, while you played out this double life? Emma raised an eyebrow, her face unfazed. You're acting like you didn't push me away, Alex. Look at you, always working, always providing. But you were never really here. Mark actually sees me. He makes me feel alive. Her words struck with brutal force, and I realized there was nothing left of the woman I thought I knew. This stranger standing before me didn't care about the wreckage she'd left in her wake. In her mind, this was somehow my fault, and she was simply doing what she had to do to feel fulfilled. I gritted my teeth, fighting back the anger that threatened to explode. So, this is what it all boils down to? I asked, voice low. You think you can just rewrite our life to fit whatever version makes you feel better? Emma's expression hardened further. Maybe that's exactly what I'm doing, she said, her voice cutting and cold. People change, Alex. I changed. You're the one who stayed stuck, pretending everything was fine. My heart pounded as her words sank in, each one stripping away the remnants of our life together. I could feel the last bit of hope I had been clinging to slip away, replaced by a painful clarity. The person I had loved, trusted, and shared my life with was gone. She had rewritten our story, cast herself as the misunderstood victim, and left me as nothing more than a supporting character in her new narrative. A strange calm washed over me as I straightened up, the weight of her betrayal settling into something solid within me. Fine, Emma, I said, my voice steady. If you're done with us, then go. I'm done fighting for something that clearly only mattered to one of us. For the first time, a flicker of surprise crossed her face. I don't think she'd expected me to respond so calmly, to let her go without a fight. She was ready for an argument, prepared to twist things around once more. But I was finished with that, and with her. Emma cleared her throat, regaining her composure, her face slipping back into the calm indifference she'd worn since walking in. I'll stay at my sister's tonight, she said, almost businesslike, as if this were just another routine change in plans. She didn't apologize, didn't hesitate, just grabbed her bag and headed for the door without a backward glance. I stood still, numb, watching as she left. The door clicked shut, and a thick silence filled the apartment. It was the quietest it had ever been. I waited there, half expecting her to come back, to say it was all a mistake, that we could fix this somehow. But no sound came from the hallway. She was gone, just like that, leaving me alone with the shattered remains of our life together. I sank onto the couch, the reality settling around me like a weight I could barely carry. I replayed our last words, her cold, dismissive tone echoing in my mind, each phrase a reminder that she'd been ready to walk out on us long before tonight. I felt like a fool for ever believing her lies, for ignoring the small signs, the little changes, the absences I brushed aside. As the hours passed, I found myself drifting through the apartment, eyes landing on the remnants of her in every room, the framed photo on the shelf, her favorite mug on the counter, the scent of her perfume still lingering in the air. Each item felt like a piece of the betrayal she'd left behind, memories turned into hollow reminders of a love that hadn't been real to her for a long time. At some point, I wandered into our bedroom, where her clothes were still hanging neatly next to mine, as if nothing had changed. I reached for a stack of her clothes, pulling down that dress she'd worn last New Year's Eve when she toasted to forever. The memory turned my stomach now, all those words, her laughter, her smile, they'd all been lies. One by one, I began packing her things, folding each item without a hint of emotion. I didn't need her here, didn't need any reminders of the person she had chosen to become. By the time I finished, the room felt emptier, but lighter somehow, as if the weight of her lies had begun to lift, leaving only space for something real. The next morning, I woke to an empty apartment. The reality of it settled in as I lay there, staring at the ceiling, the silence heavy but oddly freeing. Part of me felt hollow, but another part, one I hadn't acknowledged yet, was relieved that the pretending was finally over. No more wondering, no more pretending that everything was okay. She was gone, and I had nothing left to lose. I pulled myself up and made my way to the kitchen. Emma's laptop was still on the counter, where I'd left it last night. I hesitated, torn between wanting to move on and needing to know the full truth. My hand hovered over the trackpad before I finally gave in, unable to resist one last look for answers. I unlocked the screen, and there it was, a new email notification from Mark. His message was a punch to the gut, written with a casual intimacy that confirmed everything Emma had admitted. Missed you last night. Can't wait to finally be together for real. Let me know when you told him. It'll be a fresh start for both of us. I closed the laptop, my mind reeling as I let the finality of it all sink in. This hadn't been some fleeting mistake or a phase she'd go through and regret. She'd planned it, timed it, and was ready to leave our life behind without a second thought. All those months, she'd been building a future with him, one that didn't include me. It was a deeper betrayal than I'd been prepared to face. But as the shock faded, something else took its place, a quiet, unshakable resolve. I didn't need her apologies or explanations anymore. She'd shown me exactly who she was, and there was nothing left to fight for, no reason to hold on to the life we'd once shared. I knew now that clinging to her memory, her lies, would only keep me stuck in a place she'd already left long ago. I took a steadying breath, feeling a strange clarity wash over me. She could have her new life, her fresh start, but it would come without me. I was finally free to rebuild, to find something real, something that didn't depend on lies and betrayal. After closing the laptop, I looked around the apartment, the space that had once been filled with Emma's presence, our laughter, our shared memories. Now, it felt foreign, like a hollow shell of the life I thought we'd built together. But I didn't feel broken or lost. Instead, I felt a renewed sense of purpose, a determination to make this space my own again. I started with the photos. One by one, I took down the pictures of us, smiling, holding each other close, moments that felt fake now, tainted by the truth of what she'd been hiding. Each frame went into a box, each memory packed away, no longer a part of the life I was moving toward. I didn't let myself linger on the memories or the emotions, this was about reclaiming my space, my life. Next, I moved to the closet, gathering up the things she'd left behind, clothes she'd forgotten or chosen not to take. I packed them quickly, each item feeling lighter as it left my hands, until there was nothing left of her in our room. I'd given her everything, my trust, my love, my loyalty, and now, for the first time, I was taking something back. When I finished, I looked around the room. It felt emptier, yes, but also more honest, like I'd peeled away the illusion and was left with something real. I could feel the weight of the past lifting, replaced by a small spark of freedom and the realization that I didn't need her to feel whole. I stood by the window, taking in the morning light streaming into the now quiet apartment, and allowed myself a moment of peace. This was the beginning of something new, not the life I'd planned, but one that was now completely mine to shape. Emma might have walked away, but I was the one who was truly free. As I breathed in, I felt the emptiness slowly transform into possibility. I didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid to face it alone. I was ready to rebuild, step by step, and create a life grounded in truth, resilience, and, most importantly, self-respect. In that moment, I realized I wasn't saying goodbye to Emma. I was saying hello to a stronger, wiser version of myself. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I knew I would be okay.